All right, it is 7 o'clock on Thursday, March 13th. This is the regular city council meeting for the city of Alburnett, and we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll please stand and join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Counselor Trump,
Aye.
Counselor Bosenberg,
Present.
Counselor Sukup,
Present.
Counselor West,
Present.
Counselor Myers.
Present.
Let the record reflect, we do have a quorum to conduct a business tonight. With that, I will seek a motion to approve the agenda. The agenda that you have is correct. We did have to make a quick update to what was posted. There was one of the dates for the minutes for the budget workshop was incorrect. So someone may have caught the previous posting, but we did repost and correct that last evening. So other than that, I don't believe there's any changes. So I would seek a motion to approve the agenda.
So
Moved by Myers. Do I have a second?
second.
Second by Bosenberg. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries. We will recognize our sheriff's deputy.
Hi, everybody. We had 22 calls for service last month and we met our town time. Calls for service range from full resource to a couple traffic stops, car checks. Nothing really alarming. Any questions?
Any questions?
Concerns?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Appreciate you being here. Have a safe night.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to citizen comments. We do have two types of comments in the city of Alburnett, those for agenda related items and non-agenda related items. We do ask that you state your name and address clearly for the record and limit your comments to 5 minutes. Get my timer ready just because we do have a crowd tonight and make sure we stay on task. So are there any comments on agenda related items? If you are on the agenda, you will speak then. So any comments on agenda related items? Okay, hearing none. Any comments on non-agenda related items? All right. That brings us to the mayor's report, and good, bad, or otherwise, I don't have anything to report this month. Status of our one outstanding nuisance hasn't changed. With the weather getting nice, I have seen a few more, so we'll work with Lynn County and get their help cleaning some of that stuff up. So we'll move on to council comments. I'll start to my left with Counselor Myers.
Nothing at this time.
Counselor West,
No, this time.
Counselor Sukup,
Nothing at this time.
Counselor Bosenberg, Counselor Brown.
No.
Moving right through it. That brings us to written reports. Fire department, this is gonna be page 3 of your packet. Vern?
I think what you probably see in there is the information about, we had met on, February 17th and had railroad safety and reported training and conducted by the Canadian Railroad Police. We also met on March 3rd for our normal business meeting and medical training on help by fallen and I can't get it. On different ways to move a patient. I think 136 is listed later down here on the agenda, so I'll skip that. On March 20th, we're hosting a Lynn County Fire Association here. And the Cedar Rapids Hazardous Device Team will be conducting our training. On Saturday, March 22nd, we have quite a few members that'll be going to the sky warning training at the Faith Life Church here out on C Avenue for weather spotter training. Which we probably will need for tomorrow night. And we have our annual Easter egg hunt and fire grill is on April 12th. At that time, we're also involved with the Lions Club in getting the car show up and running for this year. It'll be our 7th year going into that. And our chief is working on individual things at this time. And that's in your packet. I do have one other item that I'd like to present to you.
You have times on the fire grill. We can get it up on the city website,
Fire grill is
the Easter egg hunt.
I'll get it for you.
9 to 1, isn't it?
I believe so.
You can present while he's looking at.
He can look it up and I'll give you this. We have been working on the, junior firefighter program.
Mhm.
So we have it all in place now. And I thought I would give you this information while I'm here. We set the guidelines and the rules for the students that would be able to come and join us. And I also set up the application for them also. So you'll see on the application that nothing happens unless the parent is advised. Parent signs off and knows what they're gonna be dealing with, what the kids are allowed to do and not to do. We have decided that we can let the kids go on calls with us. However, if it is a fire, like a house fire, for instance, they're not allowed in the fire at all. If it's on a medical call, they can help with certain things. If it's a gruesome type of call, they won't be allowed to go in. They'll be under our advisement as the leaders. Okay? And they only get to go provided we have room in the truck to go, so to speak. So those are the big things. But on the application, you'll see I made specifically that we have the parents' consent or guardian consent, whichever, end up I am clearing us so that if they get injured by chance, we're not responsible for this. If they get injured and they did not listen to what we were telling them to do. I'm clearing us in the township and the city. Okay? And the other thing is parents have to know what the guidelines are, just like the kids do. We have zero tolerance for alcohol, drugs. They have to maintain a C average. They have to report what their grades are every 3 months to us. And I told you about them being able to respond. Their big role is a support person for us. They'll be allowed to fully function in all non-hazardous areas. So we were very strict about what they can and cannot do. They're not allowed to drive any of our apparatuses. That's a big no-no. They can attend all meetings, trainings, calls. They are not allowed to vote because they're not a member of the department at that point. They could get a pager if we happen to have one available. We do not want them to leave the school for a call, and we don't want them to take their pager to the school. We also restricted the idea that they have to live within 5 miles of our area here of the department. Specifically because you could be in Central City, you could have a Center Point address or whatever. You're in Center Point, you're coming a long ways to get to our station. You're coming from Central City, you got a long ways to get in here. I don't want anybody to be pushing the issue with their foot on the pedal and have an accident for themselves. So I was very picky. So if you take a look at that, tell us what you think, and if you think that it's good, we're gonna run it.
Awesome.
Good.
Appreciate it.
Looks great.
Page 16, sorry, I didn't tell you that, did I?
And they can, yeah, I think you did. They can be, so then 18, they can be full-fledged, so 16 to
Basically,
17
we
and.
want them to graduate.
Okay.
And then basically, it's like when you become available at that point, that you're an adult, you can join us full time.
Awesome.
Okay.
So I assume you'll want council action to adopt this program at a future meeting,
Chief?
or is
Is
that?
that what you, is that what the council would want?
I'll review it. We'll talk,
Okay.
we'll see if it needs to be on an agenda. I do want the attorney to probably look at the indemnification statements and
Yep.
just make sure we're fully covered
And we
there,
also
so.
know that we are covered by insurance, because we
Yep.
checked with Chris.
Yep, I know you've been working closely with Chris.
We know that's complete, so that's what I've got, and if you come up with something that I don't know, you'll have to let me know. I
Awesome.
went through it pretty close, so.
I'll let you know. Thank you.
Thank you. The Easter egg hunt or the fire drill and Easter egg hunt starts at 11 and the Easter egg hunt starts at 1.
Thank you. Make sure we get that up on our calendar.
And then one last thing, thank you, Mac, for helping yesterday. We had a call and some vehicles got stuck and he was able to come out and help us out.
So
So
I thought maybe you got to drive one. One of these days you'll get to drive a fire
Yeah.
truck.
So he helped out a lot on our last call, so.
Awesome.
You guys gonna burn the house down yet? Or that south of town?
One on the top of town, no,
You're not gonna do it now?
no, that's Marion's district.
Oh, that's
And
Marion's.
they would prefer to take that over, so
Oh, okay.
we have another one possibly lined up.
Oh, do you? Good, good, okay.
Anything else for Verna or Chief West? All right, hearing none, that brings us to City Administrator. Recognize Rebecca.
I was fortunate to attend a couple, networking and, educational opportunities over the last month. March 4th, I attended Local Leaders Day, that was hosted in Des Moines. Some good information on economic development, some resources that rural communities can use for grant money, you know, to incentivize businesses, and development of your area. We met with HR Green for the park, project update. I followed up on the DOT railroad, that big paragraph in there. Does anyone have any questions about the outcome of the application for the enhanced safety apparatus at the railroad crossings?
Which crossing you talking about? Just the main one here, not the one?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's next to this.
All right, any other questions for Rebecca? Brings us to Public Works. Mac.
I took new samples today to Waterloo for well two, so we're hoping to see if the flushing is working as far as the ammonia levels, so hopefully we'll have those results next week. Working closely with the DNR and Kenny on trying to get that solved. It's been a big thing this month.
Perfect. You mentioned drawdown. When's our normal discharge?
The
Oh,
15th.
okay, so we're not super far ahead of schedule, but
No, we're
Yeah.
getting close, and we're making, they advised us to, we had a little bit of room in cell 2 and 3, so we're moving some water over right now. Trying to make room to get us by until normal discharge time.
Okay. Perfect. I knew we did one in the spring. I just couldn't remember when. But with rain in the forecast, I'm sure that
That's-
doesn't help.
That's why I wanted to move some over, just to be safe in case we get heavy rains and have to discharge early.
Awesome. Anything else?
No.
Anything for Mac? Appreciate you keeping everything straight. Did you have in here? He is working on testing for, remind me what test? Wastewater. So we are working towards that certification, though we really, really appreciate Kenny. All right, brings us to City Clerk. Vicky's here tonight. Anything to add to your report?
No, not an addition.
Any questions for Vicky? She did start including legislative updates, so we get, is it from the League of Cities that they send that email?
Yes.
So the League of Cities sends a regular email with legislation updates, kind of what they're watching, what they're in support of, what maybe they're not. And so Vicky thought it'd be helpful to pull some of those out, that really apply to us. Some don't. I mean, there was one recently about like police forces, so that doesn't apply to us. So you will see that in her report as well, in case you're wondering where that cropped up from. But any questions for Vicky?
I do see in the legislative update, the city council notice.
Yes, so they standardized, because I didn't know that got approved, so thank you for including that. Some notices are between 4 days and 20 days. Some notices are 7 days and 20 days. Some notices are 10 and 20. They standardized them all to no more than 20, no less than 10 days from when you're having a hearing that you have to have it published. Am I representing that correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another House file out right now that I talked to Cindy Golding yesterday, and she put in a recommendation this morning to pull it and revisit what it is for, we're trying to get it to some of the people that are within the league advocacy group or lobbying group want to go for 420. And because of moves towards digital, people aren't reading print as much, especially around here. The Gazette has changed their schedule to printing 3 days a week. And so then that pushes our timeline to get it to them by 10 a.m. 2 days prior to whatever date. It's Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday. So it shortens up our timeline. Plus, we're trying to make it more efficient for cities to, or I should say they are trying to get it more efficient for cities to get things moving instead of having such a lag, especially for zoning purposes or, stuff like that. Stuff that has more of a
See to it. Yeah.
urgency to try to get that rolling a little bit faster.
And
So,
part of the point was whether you publish it 10 to 20 or 4 to 20, it doesn't change the public's response. Like the date doesn't change, so I saw it 10 days ago or, 4 days before the meeting. So that's what that one is. They're just trying to standardize it. Cause right now it does depend on the type of notice. And so you have to kind of pay attention.
there's been a compromise kind of introduced to go to maybe 7:20 instead of, some week somewhere in the middle, just to keep it a little bit, get urgency, but that 10 is really not really productive.
Yeah.
So,
And then the other one that she noted is, sets a max on what we can increase for sewer charges. So I hadn't seen that one either. I knew they were looking at storm sewer, but is this wastewater? Any other questions? Anything on the treasury report stick out? We're gonna be talking about a budget amendment. We'll talk about that when we get there. All right. That moves us to consent agenda. I will own my outcome in that we forgot to include the January budget workshop minutes on the February agenda, so we made sure to get them pulled in this time. They have been published, so this is just council's approval of those minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Sukup. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by West. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Brings us to new business. Mr. Harani, we're glad you're here.
All right.
Floor is yours. We do have your presentation in our packets. So
You already have it already?
we do, yeah, it's all in here. So if you
The
just
crowd. Got a big crowd here. If everyone wants to follow along as I'm talking here. Thanks for having me.
tell us
back.
next slide and we'll go through. So
Very good. All right. Well, I'm Joe Harani, the Deputy Director for the Cedar Rapids Lynn County Solid Waste Agency, here to give an update on services, programs, and I have a capacity update about what's going on with the landfill. So I'll get to that. Our two locations that we operate, Site 2 is the landfill and recycling location right over here on County Home Road. Site 1 is Mount Trashmore, the closed landfill, that's now the recreation area. And Site 3 is our compost facility that's adjacent to Mount Trashmore down by Czech Village. We do have our 9-member board of directors. We have 6 officials from the city of Cedar Rapids, 2 Lynn County supervisors, Supervisor Myshide and Ben Rogers. Ben's leaving at the end of the month, so we'll be getting a new person pretty soon. And then we have 1 appointee from the city of Marion. If we don't receive any taxpayer dollars, so all the services, programs, and things I'll talk about, that's all funded by our tipping fee. So that'll go into the very first slide, the FY26 tipping fees starting on July 1st. There will be a $2 increase. Currently, we are 48 per ton. It will be going up to $50 per ton. I'll go into a little bit more detail about why in a couple of minutes. The minimums are staying the same for residents though. So if you come out there in a car, SUV, minivan, we have different tiered pricing for that. Those are all staying the same. So just the overall tipping fee going up to 50. Special waste is going to 70 per ton, and that's mostly industry specific. We don't get a lot of special waste anymore because we're cutting it back, a lot of things that we accept. So some of the industry in Cedar Rapids, they're gonna see that 70 per ton. And then bulky waste is seeing a $2 increase up to 80 per ton. That's mostly like when we get loads of telephone poles, railroad ties, things that are really difficult to landfill to manage in there. Those are gonna be 80 per ton. And commercial hazardous materials processing is gonna see a 5% increase. We get these from what we call VSQGs, very small quantity generators. They can't bring in a lot to us. We don't have much of these. The residents will still be able to bring in hazardous materials, no charge. Moving on to the next one, yard waste location is gonna see a $2 increase as well. So the yard waste that goes there is $32 per ton. And then our commercial finished compost that we sell to landscapers will also be $32 per ton. Residents will still get compost for free when they come down, when we have a supply. And the last one that's a big one that will affect some folks is our commercial recycling. Currently, when the city of Marion and Raleigh for the communities that they pick up recycling in, they pay $100 to drop off recycling per ton. It's gonna go to 115. And the big reason for this is the contamination that we're getting. We get a lot of paper, get a lot of plastic, a lot of cardboard. We get a lot of styrofoam. There's a lot of plastic bags. So then when it gets taken down to Republic Services, they're rejecting a lot of it and that materials ending up getting it thrown away. So the processing fee has gone up for it. And so that's why we're still doing our big education push, is make sure people are recycling the right way. People are recycling, they're just putting too much stuff that can't go in there. And some people treat it like a garbage can, so that's an issue. So the reason we want folks to recycle though is the landfill capacity, and you see the graphic that we have there. The green area shows us phases 1 through 5A. That's where we're currently putting the garbage in. So when it comes in the city trucks and the private haulers down in the landfill, that's where it's going in. That area is filling up. So we're going to begin construction on phase 5B. Design plans will start this fall, and the construction will be in February, or will be in 2027. But phase 5B is the last area that we can actually use the landfill. So we have to close that location. I've talked about this in the past. So June 30th, 2044, landfill has to close. We have a settlement agreement with the city of Marion. It says all operations have to cease. We're gonna be well full before then. At current rates, if we keep getting garbage the way we do, we get anywhere from 180 to 200,000 tons of garbage each year. We're gonna be full, it looks like, in February of 2037. We just recently did a airspace capacity study, so that's how I can figure that. I think I was here last year and I told you it was 2036. So we've gotten a year back. It's gonna kind of fluctuate. So there's no way that we're probably gonna get 7 years space out. So we'll be full before 2044 rolls around. So if that happens, we have gotten permitted by the DNR. We can operate as a transfer station, and that's what'll happen. So if the landfill's full, garbage will still come out there until June 30th, 2044, and it'll just get shipped out to someplace, either a landfill that has space, or if there's some alternative technology by then, we'll send it there if that makes the most sense. So you can see in that graphic there, it shows where that are. So we have to have, per our settlement agreement with Marion, we have to have that 1,800-foot setback. And if you see the line at the bottom, DNR regulations say you only have to have a 50-foot setback. So there's a lot of space there that, potentially could be used that we can't because of the settlement agreement that we signed. The agency signed that back in 2006 with the city of Marion. So we've approached Marion in the past. We asked them, hey, would you reconsider letting us use capacity? They said no 4 years ago when we asked. I gave this presentation to them earlier in March, actually it was in February. And after I presented, they formed a subcommittee with their city council. And so they're looking at it again to take a look, is there something we can do? I don't know, potentially that could be maybe just getting us to 2044. Is it utilizing the whole space? If we utilize the whole space and didn't do anything to alter the pond that's currently there, we'd have capacity until 2066. But it's completely up to them. That's the thing. So if they said, yeah, hey, we'd like to do this, we would absolutely work with them, but it's their choice. And they're planning, they're doing their Marion 2045 visioning. And so they see Marion expanding north, and Marion city lines here, we're on the other side of it. We're kind of in the way of that. But they also, they're in a situation where any new building, any new business that comes in, everybody generates garbage. It's going to come to us. And if we're not there, it's going to be a lot more expensive to get rid of it. So I'll be keeping you guys updated about what goes on with that. And as we hear from them, we've been talking with them, providing them with information. So hopefully we'll get something that works for everyone, but it's up to them. It's their choice. So in the meantime, to save the space that we do have, because at the end of the day, there's some things that you can't recycle, you can't reuse it, you can't compost it, the things that have to be thrown away. We hope folks do continue to recycle. So are you guys still a choose your own community?
We are, yes.
So residents, if they don't have recycling curbside, they can bring it to us. So paper, plastic, cardboard, glass, they can drop that off for free whenever we're open. Appliances, that's staying the same. It's still $10 per appliance. Scrap metals, no charge. Tires are staying the same, $4 per tire. 5 if it's on the rim, and then batteries and medical sharps, so no charge to drop those off. And I've been here in years past, saying, if it's an alkaline battery, go ahead, throw it away. Everything else, bring it to us. we're switching it up. Just bring everything to us, because now they're making these lithium ion batteries that look just like alkalines. And it's confusing, and we still have 2 fires a week start in the landfill. You know, I'm sure you've heard some of the calls that we've gotten. Usually they don't get, we had a couple that we had to bring in crews for, the last year, but usually our spotters see it right away. Like, it's a kid's toy thing, gets run over, cracks open, ignites with the air. So we get it contained really quickly, but, so just to make it easier for everyone, just say, if it's any type of battery, bring it to us, we'll get it sorted out, we'll take care of it, and it's no charge to do that. And so other recycling services, TVs and monitors, that's staying the same. It's 15 per unit regardless of size and weight. And all other electronics are no charge. So if you can plug it in, it's not a TV or a monitor or an appliance, we'll take it. And then again, household hazardous materials, so paints, chemicals, stain cleaners. It seems like spring's finally here, fingers crossed. So if you get some fertilizer that you don't use up, you don't want to keep that around the garage, we'll take things like that as well. So just about anything you have, we'll take that, no charge. Some other services that we've added in the last couple of years, book recycling, hardcover and softcover books, drop those off. CDs, VHS tapes, DVDs, cassette tapes. There are still a lot of cassettes and VHS tapes out there. I look at this container about once a week, and it's amazing what people drop off. It fills up every week, so that's available now. And then textile recycling, we're working with St. Vincent de Paul. They take it and they're giving clothes away to people who need it. They sell it in their stores, and what they can't give away, that's in too rough a shape. They have a textile recycling person in the Chicago area that they ship it to. So it's keeping a lot of material out of the landfill. And one new program that we've added since I was here last year is mattress recycling. So we're not doing the actual recycling. If you bring a mattress to the landfill, it's going to cost you $20. So the reason, and that's on top of the other garbage fees. So if you came out to pick up a load of garbage and you have a mattress in there, it's going to be $22 for the garbage, an additional $20 for the mattress. The reason for that being, you throw a mattress in the landfill, dozer pushes it in, the compactor, which weighs thousands and thousands of pounds, goes over top of it, and it just starts to pop back up. So Levita comes out with like 40 mattresses at a time. It's an issue. So we, to get around that, we started working with Willis Stady and in Cedar Rapids at their First Avenue location. So Willis Stady is a group that helps give jobs to homeless people. It started off as a pilot program. It's now done full time. So they have a crew of 6 people working full time to take apart mattresses. And if you take it down there, instead of it costing $20, it's only $10 to the resident who drops it off. And we subsidize it by giving them another $10 to help pay for their employees for their time. And so they're taking it apart. They pull out the foam. You can see those pictures there. They pull out the foam, the mattress covering, the scrap metal. They're recycling it all. And it's great. So it's creating jobs for them, saving space for us. It's cheaper for residents to drop it off there. And we're the only mattress recycling operation in the entire state. So they did over 400 last year. They want to more than double it this year.
Oh.
So we're encouraging folks, if you have a mattress, please take it down to them. And it'll save you money, and then it'll save space in the landfill too.
Do they take the box springs in
They
too?
just this week started
Okay.
taking the Brock. They charge for it,
Okay.
but it's a separate charge. But yeah, they are taking it. Yep. And we don't care about getting box springs. They break up really easily. That's not bad. It's the mattresses that.
Doing it.
Other partnerships that we have, we also are working with Central Furniture Rescue. They're another local organization that helps people who have been homeless, who are getting into housing for the first time, like get into an apartment or a small home. Furnish it. You know, you're talking about people who don't have any chairs, tables, things like that. So they've staged 2 containers by our residential unloading area, and our staff who work the wall, making sure people aren't throwing away things they shouldn't. They'll walk around and somebody comes in with like a small trailer load or a pickup, and they've got a bunch of garbage in there, but they have one chair that looks pretty good. We'll say, hey, can we put that over there so we can donate that? And everyone is generally really good about that. So we fill up these containers, almost weekly or a couple times a month, and with material that might be garbage to someone, but is good to someone who's never had a home before. And so it's diverting a lot of the big bulky material that takes up space in the landfill. So that program has been going really well. And Central Furniture Rescue said they're pretty happy with the results they're getting out of that. So I'm proud of that partnership. Moving on down to compost, Mount Trashmore actually opened this week. We had a flash opening. They're open yesterday, today, and they'll be open tomorrow. And they'll open for Spring for Good on April 1st. We encourage folks to get down there and take in the view. And then, like I said, compost, when we have it available, we're going through the screening process right now. So getting that a big pile so we can get it out there. No charge for Linn County residents. So you can take as much as you want when we have a supply. No limit with that, as long as you're in your personal vehicle. And then also we have wood chips too. So double wood chips that are great for landscaping. That's free to the public as well. And that's, we used to charge for those, but ever since the ratio, we have a big supply of wood chips still. So, and that's for the community too. If we have a supply and you guys need any compost for any park projects or for the landscaping for the wood chips, let us know. You guys get that no charge. And lastly, just want to say, we're here. I feel like I'm always kind of doom and gloom, especially the last couple of years, because that price is going to keep going up. And that's the biggest thing. we're concerned about is transferring is the next cheapest option after landfilling. We know our board can study, they looked at all the different options and everything's just way more expensive. Things like incinerators costing $1 billion and, you know, we just don't generate enough garbage that we can justify doing something different. So, but even going from landfilling to transfer, if like we do all the programs that we subsidize right now, if we keep everything apples to apples, instead of us charging $50 a ton, it'd have to be like $95 per ton. So the tipping fee is gonna go up a little bit each year, so that I'm not here one year saying, hey, it's $50 a ton, landfill's blowing back here the next year, hey, it's $100 per ton, and everyone's kind of blown away for it. So it's gonna go up a little bit each year. But if we can find a solution, or if Marion's willing to, you know, give us that extra space, that's something that we've been maintaining for a while when we have the space to work with. So I'll just make sure that I come back and give you guys updates as we go through this process. And then I heard someone mention the Lions Club earlier, things like that. If you have any groups that you're involved with, if you'd like someone to come talk to them, I'd like, you know, please reach out to me at the landfill, call Ness, talk to Joe, because you know, any group, like, as more people know about this, I think it's important so that it's not a shock one day when like, hey, the landfill's gonna close, what's gonna happen to the garbage? Because that's what I always make the point, like, we might close on June 30th, 2044. Come July 1st, there's still gonna be 600 tons of garbage just that day that has to go somewhere. So we're working on it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Any questions? All right.
Thank you so much.
Yes, I appreciate it.
All right, next item on the agenda, discussion and possible action regarding Muthart Street sidewalk. So we have several pictures in your packet starting on page 32. It has come to our attention, we had a resident reach out that he received a letter from his insurance company that his sidewalk was an issue. It is settled. So normally, according to our ordinance, the sidewalk is the homeowner's responsibility. However, this particular sidewalk was part of the Muthart Street project, and so the city's contractors and engineers were the ones that were responsible for the installation. The sidewalk in particular that does seem to be the worst is on the north side of the street. So the school side seems to be okay. It's the north side. There are several areas that have settled. So in looking into this, I did find there is a precedent within Iowa code in regards to construction standards and construction defects that does allow, depending on the type of construction, in this particular instance, it would fall into one of two buckets. I don't have them in front of me, but regardless, the time frame is between 8 to 10 years that the contractor or general contractor could still be liable. Now, I'm not saying in this instance we're going to take any legal action, but for me, that does set the precedent that while, again, according to ordinance, the homeowner's responsible, we had this installed and that was 7 years ago. So it's still within that time frame of if we consider it a construction defect. So
Real quick, there is a provision in the code that if you are within 1 year of the 8-year or 10-year deadline, they will extend the deadline by 1 more year.
yeah, as long as you've reported it. Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yes.
yep. And this is clearly within that because it's 7 years. I think it's October. It was finalized in October, so we're well close to that. So what you're gonna see specifically, page 35, the top right picture, see, it's every driveway crossing, it is settled on either side of the driveway. There is one property where they poured the sidewalk and a little bit of driveway, like beyond the sidewalk towards the home, and that one's fine. So it's like when they stopped at the driveways, that seems to be what is sinking. And then page 36, that is the worst one. So that is right at the joint with the driveway. It's Mac measured it, so I think he had some pictures with the measuring tape. It's like 1.5 inches.
Inch to inch.
Did you have all of the addresses that coordinate with the picture of the one I put in the document? It didn't move those over. So if you're curious, I do have the addresses that coordinate with each one.
How many driveways are we talking about there?
Hang on just a second. Well, I took 29 pictures. 19, 20.
Oh, it's not that many. It's like,
It's not driveways, but there are sections that are settled.
yeah, it's for sure, there's 4 driveways that are
Bad.
bad. There's one more that I'd be like, cause that's actually heaved the other way where the driveway sank a little and or the sidewalk came up. Some of this might come out, as the frost comes out too. I mean, there's some that might settle back down, but,
There is one picture that the whole section has cracked.
yes, so that does seem to be, if you walk it, so page 37, bottom left, you'll see that crack. That seems to be where it started. So beyond that crack is where it really starts to go up and down. Are they the worst sidewalks in town? No, but the city installed them. The city didn't install the other sidewalks in town, so. Finish flipping through that.
There are a total, these are on the north side of the street, right?
Correct. The south side of the street doesn't seem to have settled.
I
That-
did take pictures of addresses on the south side.
I counted 10 driveways that are on the north side of Muthart. So I don't know how many of them are
There's only
actually,
5 on the north side.
what's that?
I think there's only 5 on the north, because,
Are you talking from Main to Third?
yes.
Got. Yeah,
Anything that ends in an odd number is on the north side. Oh, you don't have the address. Never mind.
yeah, I'm just looking at Google Maps, a
Um,
picture, an aerial picture of the driveways.
I can list off the addresses that I took pictures at if you would like.
No, it's all right. Thank you, though. So really what it comes down to is, again, we've only had one homeowner reach out about the issue. So pleasure of council, if we would like, how you want to address this. I think we have a contractor come out and look at the whole thing and get us a price. We do know, so you have a letter in your packet, page 40, because that particular property owner does need our assistance. So they have reached out, they've asked for a timeline, that's what was provided. So here it does say, yeah, October of 17 is when that project was completed. I would recommend we put this out for bid and have contractors look at replacing and or repairing. I don't know if we can jack it up in certain places. I just don't, given the length of the run, I'm not a concrete contractor, to know what's possible, but there are definite areas of issue, tripping hazards and such that, I think would need to be addressed.
Yeah, it's definitely a domino effect. I mean, if one person does it, then the next person's gonna say, you know, well, I wanna have that looked at also. There's no reason not to look at the whole thing.
Too, would be different with concrete versus jacking. Would you have to have 2 different people? Or 2 different, cause I don't know if
I
the
don't,
concrete guys do the lifting. I think you have to have
a special,
Special.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be different, so we might look at doing that too,
we can do it, yeah.
Get
We can get
estimates.
estimates on the options, yeah,
just to throw that out, cause I don't figure a concrete guy will do that.
that's true. I also know sidewalks not terribly expensive, like this, it's not a giant project,
Right.
so.
But in most of those cases, the concrete's good, it's just that it's shifted.
That's unfortunately the problem. So that one block that cracked,
Yeah.
that seemed to be where it like separated and that's where it starts sinking. But yeah, unfortunately, the sidewalk itself is sound. But I don't want our residents to have issues. It looks like a compaction issue, that the sub didn't get compacted enough, and so now it's sinking.
So I would say we go ahead and get both concrete contractors, see if they, you know, if they do jacking. Get quotes both ways. If they don't, then also get somebody else who does jacking
Mhm.
to provide us estimates. And I would almost do it on, I mean, would it make sense to do a mix and match in some cases where some of it would have to be completely repoured and some of it could be jacked? I mean, I don't know how that would play out with two different contractors. if
That's
that
my
ends up being-
concern, is if you're mobilizing two contractors, it's probably gonna be more expensive than just,
But I mean, if, you know, if we can get them to quote it that way, then break down itemized by driveway, I guess.
so there are, sorry, I did pull up the map now. There are about 7 driveways that are impacted, so there's the second driveway in from Maine is the one where they poured beyond the sidewalk, and so that one's good, and then the one further to the east is also fine, and then you've got the church, the entry into there, that alley that goes into the parking lot, and there's no, that one's good too.
Got it.
So I hear one for putting out to bid the project to get bids to replace and or repair the entirety of the north side of Muthart Street. Opinions? I don't need a motion on it, cause we'll,
And you mean by repair as in try to lift those up and get them leveled?
if it's possible, I don't even know if that's possible, but yeah.
I think that's what we need somebody to look at.
Right. It'd be worth getting opinions on.
Yep.
So. Alright, anyone opposed? Let's do it that way. Alright, cause I don't think I need a motion, cause we'll do the whole bid process, so,
So,
alright, we'll get that rolling. So we'll put it out for bid, to have those ready at the April meeting. Right. Anything else on that agenda item? That moves us on to item 11C, discussion regarding possible amendment to chapter 165 zoning regulations. So we got a zoning application from the Lynn Co-op. We do have a couple of representatives here tonight, so I may let them speak to their project a little bit. But gonna take you all through where we're at. So we got a zoning application for a new grain bin silo structure at 72 or 4 feet. I keep forgetting what the number is. Oh, 82? Okay.
Oh, that was.
We did decline that because based on our current zoning, the max height is 45 feet. They are zoned industrial. So the max height in our industrial is 45 feet. So then they came back kind of asking what we can do. I did reach out to city attorney. Our regular city attorney had conflict of interest, and so we reached out to Lynch Dallas that council has approved to have as a backup in those types of situations. And that attorney provided some of the best advice, recommendations on Board of Adjustments and variances than we've ever received before, and it was super helpful. So because I had asked, first of all, am I interpreting it correctly? And second of all, the process for Board of Adjustments and variance and those types of things. And essentially for a variance to be issued, there are 3 criteria that have to be met. And this is based on, this comes from the Iowa Supreme Court. So the first is that the land must not yield a reasonable return if used according to the zoning regulations. So basically the way he layman's it for me was the land is otherwise useless. There is no value to it if you have to follow the zoning regulations. He did say a lot of variance requests die right then and there. Because for the most part, they otherwise hold some sort of value. The hardship must be due to unique circumstances specific to the land, not general conditions or the owner's personal situation. So in this case, it's a nature of their business, so it falls out there as well. And then the third is that granting the variance cannot alter the essential character of the locality. That one, I would say not an issue because they do have existing grain bins. some of which admittedly are higher than the 45 feet. I think you said what's your current highest?
Everything up there is above 45 feet.
I think we have 15 structures.
Okay.
It's over 40. Hand these up.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got a site, I got a packet and a site plan. And I'm Kirk Sauer.
Sorry, yes, I should
I've
have
been
done
on
your.
co-op since 1991. Pretty much everything you see up there, I have been building over the last 34 years. Tearing down and rebuilding. I've always tried to work with the city on different issues, and up until the last time in 2020, before the Gray Show, when we put up the last bin and the new drain lay, the overheads, the new dump and everything, up until then, the only thing I did was I walked to the old office, I gave them $10 and they gave me a green sticker. The last time I filled out paperwork with Wayne County, submitted everything, had the approval, nobody said anything. Did the same thing this time. Get an email from the county planning and zoning saying that was denied. 4 or 5 days go by and I heard nothing. Jill from the county, I called her and she said it was denied by the administrator here because of 165.09 or whatever.
Yep.
So and my question to her was, why did I have to call her? Number one, according to what I've been told is the city administrator doesn't have the power to deny it. If there's a question with meeting code, since we have a planning and zoning board, the planning and zoning board needs to be called in for a meeting to discuss, along with the owner, to discuss what the ordinance, not violation.
Violations.
are. So all this time, and we are on a time restraint. I've paid for the bin. I've got contractors lined up and 30 days have gone by. And according to people I've talked to, like with Wayne County Planning and Zoning, these steps could have been taken and we could be at this meeting deciding to approve it or not.
So the way our ordinances are lined up, so we have a planning and zoning committee. They are responsible for the zoning ordinance. So what we're actually gonna finish discussing tonight, if the council or that committee looks to make a change to the zoning ordinance itself, that's their role. We have a board of adjustments that would hear what you're explaining. So if there's a request for a variance, and that is where so the city administrator or myself, we do have the authority to decline because it was in violation of our ordinance. But to your point, for you to appeal to the Board of Adjustments, if that was an error, yes, you could do that, but it's not an error. You're asking for something that's above the zoning regulation. So then to ask for that variance, that is where we receive the guidance from the attorney. So you can make that request, but I'm gonna give the Board of Adjustments that guidance.
Right.
In which case, it would have wasted everyone's time. So what we're looking at
But I
tonight,
feel that's where I feel I've answered. If you look at my sheet, your three stipulations. The land must not yield a reasonable return if used according to the zoning regulations. If you go to my first page there, I'll print it off. A capacity 5420 is the size of bin I want to put up. It shows my costs, the bushels, the cost per bushel, and the income off that. So if you go to the map and look, this is one little site. So that, I cannot sell that 60-foot area. I have to sell the whole facility. I can't sell that one specific site. So according to our lawyer, if I have to go down to a 548 bin, which if you look at Supa, their chart doesn't even go that low. So it'd be a special order, which would be additional cost. The cost only drops down to 433,000 because you're still paying for the concrete, the floor, the unload, the roof, the fill, the leg, the electrical. You're paying for everything except for X amount of bench sheets, sidewall.
So this committee wouldn't hear this information, so I just want to throw out, I mean, again, what we were provided from the attorney was that first part, that the land in question cannot yield a reasonable return, is the entirety of the property. So your entire property does not become valueless by not putting up this structure. Let us continue here, because what I want to discuss with council is the path forward. Because we do have options. It will take us some time. So we thank you for this.
So our point is this, my name is John Area, I serve on the board of directors for Lynn Co-op, I've been on there 22 years. I'm with Kirk here tonight, obviously for the same reason. Our point at Lynn Co-op is this, we've been an excellent corporate citizen in the city. We've spent $20 million in upgrades in this town on this facility in the last 20 years. There's been an elevator of some sort in this town since 1895. It was a cooperative in 1913. We purchased the property in 1989 from the former co-op. We've done nothing but invest money and upgrades into this property. Business as usual. We're not trying to build a windmill. We're not trying to build a 400-foot monument to ourselves. We are continuing to do business as we always have. There's nothing irregular what we're doing. There should be an easy path for allowance of an upgrade to this. This is a $750,000 project. We have half the money invested already. This needs to happen in our facility to keep us viable in this town, in this market, and to our patrons. We service 2,000 Class A patrons. Obviously, not all of them here, but we service a lot of patrons. There's a lot of dollars that rolls through this elevator. We pay our property taxes. Our elevator is pristine. Go to any small town in Iowa and you can find some pretty crappy elevators that are a mess. This man and his crew keeps that place clean. You don't have a rat problem. You don't have a rodent problem. You don't have a bunch of dinglings making messes out here. This facility is nice. We take pride in that. But we expect that we should be able to reinvest in our facility and continue business as usual. Again, we're not asking for anything out of line here. The other issue here is eventually we have some bins there that are gonna have to go away. Age, insurance. That's gonna be more reinvestment. So if we come back 5 years from now and we tell you we want to build another bin, we don't want to have to go through the same process.
John, and I really appreciate you and your business, and that's exactly what I want to talk about tonight, because you also have to understand and respect that the way the ordinance stands right now, that's what this council has to enforce. So what I'm gonna talk to my council about is how we can help make this
This should be
happen.
a fairly simple process.
It absolutely should.
There should not be a, let's go to court and fight with lawyers kind of thing.
Absolutely not. There's gonna be none of that necessary.
That's.
So if you'll give me just a few
That's not what
moments.
we want.
So when was the 45-foot ordinance put into place?
So I'm gonna be honest, that was always in place. So, we partnered with Lynn County for building permits and inspections.
Yeah.
Our processes have continued to improve our communication, how things work. And so this is where we're at. The zoning application came in. It did not meet the zoning requirements. So I would like to talk to council about how we can work with you, because we do absolutely support your business, 1,000% of what John has said. You invest in this town. You're great partners to all. So if, just give us a few minutes and we'll find a path forward.
Fair enough.
Thank you. I do appreciate the
Thanks for your
information.
input.
One more note.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
I've been in this office 4 times and spoke with Rebecca, and she's been nothing but excellent to me. Very friendly, nice lady.
Good.
Compliments to you for hiring someone of that quality. My disappointment is the fact that there was members of this council that didn't know a thing about any of this. That should have been a conversation that was had. In 3 weeks, 3 weeks,
I
I
did,
was in here talking, and that was not passed to other people.
thank you. I was seeking legal counsel, which we do have, just to ensure we were doing everything
There's a system in place
correctly.
that involves more than just the mayor. I worked for the city for 4 years. I know how it was here. I know how it went here. It needs to be everybody, it's a city council.
And we are here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we received guidance from the city attorney on those three elements in order to be issued a variance. Again, we've not had this information in the past. Additionally, he did mention, so there are two paths forward here. One is that we update the height restriction. We study, we update the height restriction on the industrial district. So I did reach out to MSA and got an updated map because our map is difficult to read. So they did send over, it's the same map, nothing has changed since that was approved. They sent me the same map from 2012, but the colors are much more vivid. So the property in question, as well as the Morrison's property next door and I believe the baseball diamond, which is owned by the school, are the only two properties in town zoned industrial. So that helps to minimize the impact. We're not, it'd be different if we're making something in a residential district because that's across town. So any adjustment does not impact other than those two properties. So that's option number one. Option number two is that we can add into our ordinance the ability for the Board of Adjustments to allow special uses. So while we have a Board of Adjustments, our current ordinance is quite limited on what they can do because again, of those three requirements for a variance, that's what they would have to go by unless we provide an application process and provisions for a special use. I'm going to pause there. I read a lot of ordinances from cities in the area. And it does exist. That feels like a lot of maintenance potentially for the city. The Board of Adjustments getting called in on special cases. We can look at that option. I think, my opinion, because of the limited nature of any impact, that it would behoove us to look at just updating within the industrial district. With that said, I did neighboring cities, we just always kind of like to benchmark. So Springville's max height for industrial is 60 feet. Central City's 55, Center Point is 45, Robbins is 100, Palos 55, Mount Vernon is 45. Shellsburg was interesting. Theirs for their industrial district is all of the restrictions on setbacks and those types of things is set by resolution. So I thought that one was interesting. Every other zoning district they had followed similar to ours, where it was all laid out, but their industrial district was set by resolution, probably for situations like this to allow for more flexibility.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in Springville for sure, because I operate grain elevator over there, they might have a height restriction. I just built 220-foot bins over there
So
2
their
years ago.
ordinance allows for those special uses that ours just doesn't have spelled out right now. Yep. We're about the only ones that don't. Us and I think Robbins. You can tell a lot of our ordinances came from
I was
Robbins.
gonna say, cause most of the towns you mentioned all have grain elevators in them, they're all.
That's why I looked at Springville specifically, because I was like, I know they have an elevator, so. Yeah. Now it went down the wrong pipe. All right, so those are the path forward that I see. Those are our options. I know they are on a time crunch because given history, they just kind of expected that this would not hit a road bump that it did. But again, I do hope you respect that we have to follow our process and make sure that it's in line with our ordinances. So again, we can increase the maximum height or I think it would also in the long run behoove us to look at putting in the conditions for special uses, but that in my opinion, will take quite a bit more research to make sure we're crossing all of our Ts and dotting all of our Is, because that's not just district-wide. That would be town-wide, that we would have to hear cases for special uses. Versus this is a very limited district.
So what is going to provide us the best path forward and also not present this as a roadblock again for them?
Either of those solutions, honestly, because to his point, he builds in Springville. They've got the special uses, you fill out the application, Board of Adjustments hears it, those types of things. Or, I mean, if we make this 100 feet align with Robbins, now unfortunately, then if they want to go 120, we're back here. But if they stay within that 100, then we don't have a problem
So
with that solution.
my question on that, say you went to 100 and 5 years down the road or whatever it is. They could, we come in and want to put a new drain leg up. Knowing that is that something that we could come down and talk to ahead of time?
I mean, they
Like
could
getting
come
a
back
special-
to us.
Well, we,
But that drain leg's probably gonna be over 100 feet is his point.
Right,
Yeah,
you know,
we'd be in the same situation we are today.
What I will say, I do want, it sounds like for our Board of Adjustments, regardless of this situation, for our Board of Adjustments to be effective, we have to have these special uses. So that's in 5 years, that'll be in place. In order to get this done, to help you, and again, because of the minimal impact within the zoning district, increasing the maximum height, I feel like we can do more expeditiously. With that said, the process is, this does have, because it's an amendment to the zoning ordinance, does have to go to planning and zoning. Our ordinance says that has to be within 30 days before council can take any action. Planning and zoning has to be able to hear it.
are you talking our planning?
Alberta
zoning
planning.
or down?
Our City of Alberta Planning and Zoning Commission, yep. So they would have to be given the proposal to vote on it. And then, so again, just looking at timelines,
And that's, what was the timeline?
30 days.
Within 30 days, they have to meet within 30 days?
They have to be given basically 30 days notice before the council wants to take any action. So if we wanted to try and do our first reading of this change at the April meeting, I mean, I
They
think,
need to know them all.
do we,
exactly.
do we have to have a second and third reading? Or can we?
We always have to have a second and third reading. It would be the council's decision whether they wanted to waive that.
Waiver that.
What we do have to have is a public hearing. I did not put that on this agenda to set that date. You all can under this action item if you so choose. But the way I saw this laying out is that I just today caught the planning and zoning that they needed to have 30 days. So that switched me a little bit. But I figure we could do first reading in April, public hearing, and second reading in May. That would be, we'd have to get this to planning and zoning pronto.
Could they have to have it a minimum of 30 days,
Let me
or
look.
could they expedite this and?
So it's a matter of if they like accept
if they
it.
want
We
to be on
basically have to give them the courtesy of 30 days.
Okay,
I have the ordinance up. Let me find
Okay.
it.
perhaps they could do it in less time?
Coach Carver stopped in and dropped off some Lions Club stuff.
Who serves on your planning and
He's on the
zoning?
planning and zoning. He said he would make it to where they meet,
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
whatever.
Right.
I
Yeah,
hope
this
we could
is-
speed it up a little bit. I mean, it just depends.
Yeah, I think this would be if they were like, we're not ready to talk about this.
Right, no, I
So,
understand. He dropped some Lions Club stuff off.
I don't think that 30 days is going to be an issue. Why can I not find the amendment? Sorry, I'm trying to scroll really fast to find you all the language.
That's why I like kind of figure, see
There
if
it
we
is.
can come up with a time frame. You know, where everything's coming out, so we can,
Okay, so we do have to publish notice. Oh, so here it is. When a proposed amendment does not originate with the Planning and Zoning Commission, the same shall be submitted to said commission 30 days in advance of the date on which action is taken or it's recommended thereof. So I think that's just a courtesy to them so that we're not giving them a week to decide on something.
But they could decide on something in a week.
They can, yes. This is so
Yeah,
that
right.
we're not
This is-
putting them in a hard spot.
Right, so
Yes.
that could
And I get
move,
that.
So,
move.
Somebody's on vacation and you're not demanding that
right.
they meet within 24 hours or something.
Mhm.
So I would say if we reach out and let them know of this change, I would call that within the 30 days. So we
Okay.
could still do first reading.
Can we have a special meeting?
We can, so
Have to wait, I mean,
it's a good call. We can, we do have to have a public hearing. So the
Mhm.
publication for that is 10 to 20 days.
okay.
So. And I would need council action tonight to set that public hearing.
So with the public hearing, could it possibly be the next council meeting in April?
Yes,
Do it ahead of that.
It can be before that, couldn't
They're
it?
saying they could do it.
Could before that.
If I understand you.
it has to be, it has to be published 10 days. So that's actually 12 because
Okay.
we've got to have the publication timeline in there.
Ahead of the April meeting.
I'm just trying to think with
Yeah, we're,
what I got lined up with contractors and, you know, the time.
what kind of
If-
timeline are you guys like?
Well.
What are they, what are they
To be honest with
asking
you, the
for?
process comes out next week,
Okay,
but I've talked with the guy digging and the concrete, so that's the two critical things.
Mhm.
The concrete, cause they line up all their other jobs.
Yeah.
If he's not poured and out of here by around the 15th to 16th of May, however that Friday lays out on that week, that following Monday, he's gone. I mean, he's gotta be at other jobs.
May
So-
or April? You said May. I just want to make sure. Okay,
May.
perfect. Thank you.
So, but it's gonna take him,
Oh, no, I understand. I just want to make sure.
it's
I need
about
the time.
22 days worth of work. Concrete, cause it's poured in 3,
You gotta start in
Yeah.
mid-April.
right, and I got 10
Well-
days.
And what I heard you say, follow me here. What I heard you say is the concrete doesn't change regardless of the height of the building, right?
Right.
Oh, but you can't get your building permit until never mind.
Well,
I think out loud sometimes.
can I dig a hole?
Can you,
without
can you
building?
dig, yeah,
Yeah,
can you dig a hole, put the concrete?
I believe,
Can I roll the dice?
I
I
believe so.
mean, as long as we get, I mean,
If
you
I know
could,
that we're working towards a solution.
While I cannot make you any promises, this is a very limited impact, given that you and your neighboring property are the only industrial district in town.
yeah.
And we've got a chain of 5 contractors here. The guy that digs a hole ain't the guy that pours the cement. It's not the guy that builds the bin.
so,
And it's not the guy that wires it. And you gotta remember, this crop goes in the spring and it comes out in the fall.
Yep.
This facility needs to be functional.
right.
And if I know we're working, I know nothing's guaranteed. There's public hearings. But for the few that want to come in and argue against, that would argue against it, I can bring a whole
Yeah.
room full that are gonna argue for it. My biggest question is, if I talk with my board and we know that I can convey to them that we are working towards a resolution, and I personally, as a manager, want to roll the dice and dig a hole and at least get the fill in there and then check back with you guys. You know, cause digging this hole, hauling it out, hauling fill back in, that's 10 days. Cause it's gotta be packed in, it's gotta come back in 2-foot sections. We're gonna be digging down roughly 18 foot. It's gotta come back in 2-foot sections, be packed, laid in there and packed. So that's 10 days, 10 to 12 days worth of work. If I know we're working towards something and I could start digging next week or the end of next week, my minimal risk, something does happen and we end up, you know, not going according to plan. And I've dug a hole and I've refilled the hole. I mean, you know,
Just as long as that hole doesn't need any inspections along the way, which I don't believe it does.
no,
I just don't.
that's where it's on us for compaction
Okay.
and make sure that that's where we've had it. The soil borings have been done by Terracon. I'm getting the report back, and that's how I know how deep we gotta go. The contractor knows it's gotta be laid, what's gotta be put in for material, every 2 foot packed. And when we're halfway up, then Terracon will come back with their pressure, and they will pressure test and make sure it's being done right. To bring it up to the level where the first footings go, so. Yeah, all I'm doing is being a kid playing in a sandbox with the dozer.
And what I'm thinking is, yeah, the way I'm looking at it is, if the Board of Adjustment, right?
Planning and zoning.
Planning and zoning, I'm sorry. Planning and zoning can look at this next, if we can contact them, they can get together
Next week.
week or so, and they are okay with it. Census of the council, for me, I'm okay with it. If we knew everybody was okay, you can go ahead and start. He could start his digging.
We still have to have a public hearing.
Well, we still have to have a
Yeah.
public hearing,
Yeah.
but that would be for putting the bin up.
So,
But at least he could
That
get
would be for
his,
changing the height
right,
restriction.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right, but at least he could get his concrete in. You know.
help me walk through the timeline. Let's say P and Z.
That's what I was just
P and
looking
Z
at.
has, give them
Yeah.
a week.
Yeah.
Roughly. When should we have a public meeting or? We'd have to announce it.
So if we,
We also have the tax levy meeting already on the books for Monday, the 31st. We could,
let me count publication though. I think we're still good because we
Yeah.
got that published this week and it was right at 19 or 20 days, depending on if you count the day that it published. I don't know how they count days. We're at 19 or 20. So are they doing legal notices on Sundays? If we were to send them tomorrow, it'll publish Sunday, correct? Right, or is that too close to the cutoff? Okay, regardless, let's assume Wednesday. So if we get them this publication and it publishes Wednesday. That is 12 days to the 31st. So, yes.
we
We could kill.
get two birds, one stone, do the hearing and the levy meeting on
Because-
Monday and then.
March 31st.
Correct. We already have budget hearings that night.
And we would be able or not be able to vote that night.
After
If
the public
we-
meeting.
Post the public hearing, we can vote on we would have the first reading that night.
Okay. And then second reading would be about 2 weeks after that,
Well, council's discretion on, yeah,
or we could forego the additional readings.
council discretion on going through all three readings. So and I believe we can set and publish a public hearing before we have any kind of response from planning and zoning, because we can always just say, never mind, we didn't need
Yeah, we
that.
can always cancel.
So.
Yeah.
In a good situation, we could have this pretty well wrapped up by April 10th.
Well, we could have it on the 31st,
March
Well, we could
31st.
have the first reading.
but if
But let's say you
we could also,
give it another week or two, so you're middle of April and.
We could then have second reading on our regular agenda, which is April 10th.
yeah,
Okay.
or
If
did
council
you
wanted
say
to
we
do all,
could forego the second and third?
if
on the
council wanted to
31st?
do the three readings, we could do the second on the 10th.
Then we wouldn't have to worry about doing anything on the 10th, we'd be
That
wrapped up.
is a possibility, but I can't put votes in your mouths, so.
Use that time for hunting Easter eggs.
By 11 a.m. tomorrow.
Okay, I don't think it changes anything
Yeah.
if we get it in Sunday versus Wednesday, because it's 11 days, or what I say, 12 days to the 31st, so I think we're still. Wouldn't be a super big push.
But we can get it worked out.
Yeah, we'll
At
get it,
least we're trying to get it.
Yeah.
I'd say
That's the
everything,
plan.
if everything runs smooth, latest we're looking at is the 10th.
Correct. That's a
Okay.
good call to use the 31st. I forgot we had our meetings on the 31st.
So would I have to come down and meet with the planning and zoning or to discuss what they would propose?
I believe we make the proposal, so you wouldn't have to.
But
I mean, looking at what's around us, I wouldn't feel comfortable right now for the situation at hand going more than 100. I've not seen anyone above 100. And then again, we can put in the special uses.
That'll cover the.
Yeah, because there's three of them up there right now that are over.
Yeah, so those are just considered non-conforming use right now.
Right,
So,
right,
yeah,
down the road.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying, within 5 years. The next grade, when we replace that south drain leg, that drain leg is gonna be looking at being 150 foot tall. Because this one goes down in the ground. And I'll never put anything in the ground again because it's been 30 years worth of hell.
Therefore, you're gonna put more on top.
So I gotta put more in now.
Or the next ratio comes along and that 120 footer goes down and we want to replace with 150.
agreed. Where I'm at is there is another property zoned industrial, so I don't know what else would go there other than maybe, I mean, if you all expanded, again, as you mentioned, your business fits our locality,
Us in school.
you and Morrison's.
Oh.
So, again, I don't know what other industry would come in. I could look at our industrial zoning to see what fits. I just don't want to open ourselves up too far if in the future we are also looking at the special use.
That's where I would come down. If we did.
That would be Board of Adjustments, yes.
Yeah, the special use
Yep.
to put it 150 foot.
Correct.
Okay.
There'll be an
No, as
application
long as I
and,
understand.
yes, yeah,
From here on out.
Yeah.
You know, then I'm good with everything as long as I understand the steps.
Yeah.
So when I don't understand or don't know the steps.
well, and then unfortunately, our ordinance is incomplete. We don't have right now the special use stuff, and so we can't offer that as an option because
Right now.
our ordinance has to spell out the application process, the provisions, all of it, so. That's kind of where we're at.
Down the road, if something changes, it's maybe the next person. If the special uses is in place by then, you know, then we would just come. We would know what the process is.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm telling council, we almost have, our Board of Adjustments is pointless the way that from what I know now, it's pointless the way it sits because we've given them basically no power unless it meets those three criteria, so. I think the
So, you
special
know,
uses are,
If this all gets done, do I need to resubmit everything to Lynn County or would you just call Lynn County and say?
I think
"Now
we can call and provide our approval since it stopped there and it was for the reason, we can tell them, hey, zoning's been updated.
Go
This now complies, yeah, this is good to
They
go.
refused it on our behalf, correct?
Yeah, we send them
So
the
we're
decline.
totally starting.
The reason I asked is I'm gonna get busy with spring.
Yeah.
And if I gotta resubmit all that stuff, I just need, okay.
No, it's all still on record and we can just say, hey, this is the reason for it being declined is resolved now.
Cool. Okay.
So, all right, so what I'm hearing from council, first and foremost, we have to make a recommendation to planning and zoning. Pleasure of council on increasing the maximum height or pursuing the special use provisions. Again, that is townwide, the special uses. The maximum height would just be on the industrial district.
Yeah, industrial, right. Would adding the special use information right now slow this process up?
Yes.
Okay.
Cause I would
think
have
we
to
can
do,
Sometime else.
I would have to do some significant research
Right.
to make sure it fits our needs.
Well, I don't think that's gonna come into effect because not for a while. So we got plenty of time.
I just want that,
Do
Once
that.
a tornado comes through, then we're all starting.
Well.
Cause we're on that side of town, so.
Okay.
So, yeah, I would recommend to them to raise the height, but hold off on special use for now.
okay?
Raise the height to accommodate what they want to build right now.
Well, I
Not to
believe,
kick the can on the other, but just
well,
to make sure this gets going as quickly as possible.
since Robin has 100 feet, I don't think you wanna exceed that.
I would, yeah, that's the most I've seen.
Yeah.
Short of, like I said, Shellsburg, which they allowed it to be set by resolution, and I don't know what their resolution is. I did not pursue.
What's your tallest been without a leg?
Without the legs.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, cause if they wanna put up something
It's
new,
all
they're gonna
that
do
short.
it. No, that's true.
We do
I'm
have,
just curious.
there is another property, so like what else could go? I don't know if I wanna go too high.
Mhm.
Without the grain legs, 88 feet.
Really, so that, yeah, okay, 100 carries.
That'd be reasonable.
Yeah. Mhm.
All right. I am gonna ask for, I'm gonna need two motions. So one would be with our recommendation to planning and zoning. Since we are the ones initiating. And then the other will be to set the public hearing.
I'll make the motion on the first one to do the 100-foot.
To increase the maximum height restriction
Maximum height to, yes.
to 100.
To the planning and zoning committee.
Okay, motion by Bozenberg to recommend to the planning and zoning committee that we increase the maximum height restriction within the industrial zone to 100 feet. Do I have a second for that motion? Second by Trum. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries. Do I have a motion to set a public hearing for
March 31st.
Monday, March 31st at that be on our second agenda, or do we not want to push it? Do we want to leave budget? I know it can't be on the first one. Do we want to just have a third agenda that night, just to leave budget stuff alone?
That's up to you, they can go.
Yeah, it shouldn't matter. Okay. Motion to set a public hearing for the amendment to chapter 165 for Monday, March 31st at 6:30 PM.
So moved.
Moved by Myers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Sukup. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries. Thank you for being here. I'm gonna look through this because I'm interested to learn more, but
I put time, so we're spending time. I do appreciate your time.
Thanks for
Thanks for all
coming.
of your attention. Yeah. So, the public hearing, I need to come to the public hearing.
unless you wanna come as the public, nope, you don't,
Zoning, I don't.
Nope.
Okay,
nope,
sounds good.
we'll be in touch.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good, have a good night, guys.
All right. 11D, set the public hearing for FY 25 budget amendment. So we are finding that the sewer budget, so our proprietary funds for sewer, is we do not have enough to cover wages for the rest of the year. So we need to do an amendment to make sure we can cover wages. While in the process, knowing that we are also looking at purchasing a mower. And the discussion at the last meeting was whether we could get it done this year or not. We definitely budgeted for it next year. But we've got fund balance, so the proposal for this public hearing will be to include both of those things. So that's what the budget amendment itself is for. We are good to have that during our regular meeting next month. So I would just look for a motion to set the public hearing for the FY 25 budget amendment for April 10th at 7 PM.
So moved.
Moved by Myers. Do I have a second? Second by Trum. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries. Discussion and possible action regarding the purchase of load and go backpacks for the fire department. So, TJ, I'm gonna be honest, we probably could have just done this as a claim, but since the quote was still good, we just threw it on here to make sure we were covering everything. I just think it's good to be as public as possible about the things that our fire department needs. So these are two new medic bags. They did get grant funding for these. And then in addition, TJ worked with Boundtree to negotiate the price down so that it fit within the grant funding itself. I don't remember what you negotiated off, but
It was originally $2,038 and change. I dropped it down to 1806.
1844.68.
Thank you.
that's with three.
Have you received a grant for part of this?
All of it. The whole
Oh,
thing's covered by grant,
so-
but we still have to approve the expenditure,
Yep.
so. I know, but it's on here. We have to
Yep.
approve the expenditure, so.
The unit price threw me, cause I didn't see that as a decimal at first, I saw
Oh.
that as a comma.
Well, there's an extra,
No, it's not cheap.
there's an extra zero on there, so.
$300,000, what?
Nope, low budget, but it is above the 1,200 that is in our procurement, so we wanted to bring it to council's attention.
Awesome.
And actually, the grant was for more, cause you guys have, you wanna do a drill, a grain bin drill or something?
Yeah, so we also, in the schemes of it all, since we were able to get below the $2,000, that they came back with, we were able to purchase the necessary drill for our grain bin auger for anytime we have to do grain bin rescue. So, in the scheme of things, we, I think, what did I say, like $300, we end up saving overall.
It was $299 is what they, had quoted.
What it
us
was,
for
yep, and then
the
Mac was able to find it for $199. And then bags were cheaper, so actually coming out of our budget was only like $35
Sweet.
for all of it.
Sweet.
So-
What we actually saved was $155.52 by the time it was done.
So,
Perfect. Well, I would seek a motion to approve the purchase of the load and go backpacks for the fire department in the amount of $1,844.68.
Make that motion.
Sukup made it,
And Cal seconded it.
Bozenberg with a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Discussion and possible action regarding purchase of the new mower. So again, this will somewhat hinge upon the budget amendment. But we do have fund balance to cover it, and so as the grass is going to start growing, we wanted to enable Mac as much as possible. So he did include in his report, and you'll see on here, he did check on trade-in value of the Hustler of the existing mower. So that's on there at 6,500. However, him and I had a discussion and just for that amount, and what you also have in your packet is the quote for a new one, which is like 16,000. It doesn't hurt to have a backup mower. So what we did discuss is offloading the John Deere tractor, but not as part of this transaction. So he's also mentioned that the skid loader is starting to have some issues. And so we may look at potential of replacing that next year, and with that, we could
Okay.
offset, that's gonna be a much larger cost. We
With
could
the tractor.
offset that with the sale of the tractor. And with that, depending on where we go for a skid loader, they may do a trade-in on that size of equipment, whereas they weren't interested in the tractor, correct? I think you asked them.
No, they're a small equipment dealer.
Yeah.
Tractor was.
So I would recommend that we purchase the mower without trade-in.
Okay. Is the difference between these one model year, or what's the difference between the two mowers?
The one was that last 2024 model that they had in stock, and if they,
The less expensive one?
yeah,
Yeah.
and then just because it was the last model, they're trying to get rid of it,
Yeah.
and then if we get this year's model, that was the higher quote. It, like, as of last week, they still had the 2020.
Okay.
So are we approving a maximum on this to include the current year model?
That's up to you.
In case the other one isn't
In
there.
case the other one has been sold. So,
I did have him call. He said it's a special mower, so, and if we approve this tonight, then we can secure it knowing that we'll have the funding available.
Okay.
In April, so
What do you mean,
But I'll-
special mower? Is this the one?
it's
with
not,
the
it's not
extra
something
wheels?
they're weighted. It's not something, yeah, that
Not
you,
everybody's gonna buy that.
you know,
Yeah.
your regular homeowner's not looking for it.
That's so we can mow the lagoons.
Yeah.
If he is, you know, so. Cause it's so steep that you have to have a certain mower.
So pleasure of the council. Again, Vicky has built in the 18,000, right? Into the amendment. But I'm sure we had some fund available if you choose to go to the 21.5. And we've not finalized that amendment yet, because we'll talk about that.
Well, I think I put in 20,
Okay,
it was 20.
Well, I moved that, we allow for the purchase of the motor, or the mower at the 21.5 as a maximum, just to ensure that we get a mower and not have to go through this again, because that we wanted was gone, so.
motion by Myers to approve the purchase of the mower not to exceed $21,500. Do I have a second?
Plus tax.
We don't play tax. I think we're good. Do I have a second?
I'd like to amend that. I'd like to amend your motion by saying we're gonna purchase the 2024 mower, and if that's not available, we'll move up to the higher.
Yeah.
Okay, just to clarify that.
How do I do amendment?
You have to
Is there a
second it.
second on the
You have to
amendment?
second it and vote it, and then before you vote, then you have to go to amend it. So I have to second
Can
it.
he just retract his
He
motion?
can't, because we didn't take any action.
Oh,
So
sorry.
he can just make a new motion striking his out.
Fine, I'm gonna retract my motion.
So
Well,
I'll
good.
move,
It didn't happen.
I'll move, we buy the 2024 model for, 2024 model, and if that's not available, we'll move to the, more current model, which is, and the maximum is what? I can't find my number here.
21,500.
That's it.
All right. So I have a motion by Trum to approve the purchase of the 2024 Pro Z mower, if it's still available, and if not, to then approve the purchase of the 2025 model, not to exceed $21,500. Is that correct, Joe?
Yep.
All right. Motion by Trum. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Stukup. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Alright. We are on page 46, resolution 03-2025-01 is the approval of IMFOA clerk school scholarship application. So, this is to allow Vicky to go to clerk school, which is very important education. You just have to have because we pay for it up front, you've got to have the commitment.
Scholarship by reimbursement for the institute held by Iowa State University in June. But the application is, the scholarships are available for anybody. There's no real set criteria as to how to apply for it, just they raise money and disperse it. It could cover the whole cost of the classes or part of it. It just depends on how many apply.
Any questions? If not, I will read the resolution. Whereas the City Council of the City of Albernette, Iowa recognizes that Iowa local governments are required to comply with multiple federal, state, and local laws and agency rules. And whereas training is provided annually by the Iowa Municipal Professionals Institute and sponsored by the Iowa Municipal Finance Officers Association and the Iowa League of Cities. And whereas the City Council hereby encourages the city clerk to seek a tuition scholarship to assist in the financing of such training. Whereas the provisions have been made in the city's budget in support of providing this important training to include travel, housing, meals, and salary while attending. And whereas the City Council is aware that all scholarships are awarded on a reimbursement basis, it is understood that upon successful completion of in-person classes at the Institute in June 2025, the city will be reimbursed the amount of the scholarship awarded within 30 days. Whereas applicants must show proof of their municipality that they are authorized to attend the Institute. Now therefore be resolved by the City Council of the City of Alburnett, Iowa, does hereby authorize a tuition scholarship application to be submitted before the deadline of April 11th and pledges city support for all those expenses mentioned above during attendance at the Iowa Municipal Professionals Institute in June 2025. Do I have a motion to approve resolution 03-2025-01 as read?
So move.
Motion by Bozenberg. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by West. Any further discussion? Looks like Vicky wants a roll call on this one. Counselor Trum,
Aye.
Counselor Bozenberg,
Aye.
Counselor Sukup, Counselor West,
Aye.
Counselor Myers.
Aye.
Reflect, that motion passes. All right. Resolution 03-2025-02, awarding annual sewer inspection and maintenance contract. So this is something that was brought to our attention by Kenny Shoup, that it's something that the DNR likes to see. And he did state that Center Point has a standing contract. And so Rebecca reached out to several companies. What you do see in their quotes is they are not like for like, as often happens. And so she worked to come up with what is a baseline. So the quotes you have on the resolution include just the standard cleaning and televising service for each of these based on 6,000 linear feet of sewer a year. So that would take us about 5 years to get all the way through. You don't have to do all of it at once. It's actually good to just kind of keep it on a rotation. One of them did give us the entire price, and it was what, $230,000 to do all of it in one shot.
For
So,
reference, there's a little over 30,000 linear feet of sewer line to clean and televise.
so as you scan the proposals, you may not necessarily see the numbers that we have in the resolution. So that is how we came to those. Was like for like, where they included sizing differences. We went with the higher size. We're not sure exactly how much of each size pipe we have throughout town. That's something that we're hoping will help us document. So we went with the higher size when calculating, just to give you all worst case scenario.
Is this for a 1 year?
This is an annual price. The contracts, some of them gave us a term, where they would lock in and or lock in an increase across a particular term. So you'll notice like the AccuJet, the 12,072.47 would be for year one, but then there was an annual increase within their quote. And so it would get more expensive each year. Similar with the CIT Sewer Solutions, that was a 5% annual increase across 3 years.
I see that on page 47, it's got the years.
Yes, yeah, the resolution.
Okay, yeah.
Some of them didn't provide terms,
Yeah, okay.
which means that, they can increase as they see fit
Mhm.
if they don't do a contracted term. So,
And I'm gonna refer back to what Mac had in his report. He made a recommendation on maybe going with Roto-Rooter.
Yeah, for this fact that they were the second lowest bid, but they don't charge mobilization fees and they're local to Cedar Rapids. So I mean, the next one was Visu Sewer, but they're in Mason City, so that's a 2-hour drive.
And we've done work with Roto-Rooter
And
before.
yeah, I spoke with them. They're familiar with their system. I mean, we used them last year for some jetting into lagoons and that sort of thing.
Didn't we use them when we did something out towards the,
they've televised several Roto-Rooter.
yeah.
Yeah, they've televised, yeah, like the tile that we're looking at on Longworth and, yeah, they've done quite a bit of work in town. We've always been very pleased. And to his point, these others do all have to mobilize. I don't know what scheduling them looks like. We've had not great experience mobilizing contractors just because you're then on the list, you know, versus if they're local and have an opportunity to get here. Roto-Rooter also built in their quote, let me get to it. So their quote starts on page 59. You know, while it's not priced, it's not included in our price, but they do emergency cleaning
Mhm.
and those types of things too. So they'd be here to support.
Fire.
I think we've had them clean out the pump station too, haven't we?
That sounds
think-
right,
I
yeah.
think
I
we,
think before,
they used to do
before
that.
Center Point.
Mhm.
I mean, for all those reasons, I would go ahead and move to use Roto-Rooter for this ordinance
Resolution.
resolution.
I agree.
All right. With that, I will read the resolution. Resolution 03-2025-02, awarding the annual sewer inspection and maintenance contract, whereas the city of Albernet is responsible for the maintenance and inspection of its sanitary sewer system to ensure proper function, prevent blockages, overflows, and costly emergency repairs, and compliance with environmental regulations. Whereas the city solicited quotes from qualified providers for the provision of sanitary sewer inspection and maintenance services in accordance with applicable quality and safety standards. Whereas notice to contractors was duly given, and whereas 7 quotes were received as follows without considering contingency items. AccuJet sewer and drain cleaning was at $12,072.47 with an annual price increase for a term of 5 years. Visu sewer was at $12,320. That's for general cleaning and closed circuit television. That was for 3 years. Roto-Rooter at $14,875, no increase with, so that's locked in for 5 years. GPRS $17,740. Municipal Pipe Tool Company $18,030. CIT Sewer Solutions, they had a $20,000 minimum, so we're not even really sure what that would get us, plus a 5% increase annually, and that was across 3 years. And then Klein Sewer and Drain for $46,000. Now therefore it be resolved that the City Council of the City of Albernet, Iowa does hereby award the annual sanitary sewer inspection and maintenance contract to Roto-Rooter in the amount of $14,875 to be paid annually for the duration of the contract, plus applicable charges for additional services that have been approved by a designated city official. Be it further resolved that the mayor and/or designated city officials are authorized to execute the necessary agreements to carry out the terms of this contract. I have a motion to approve resolution 03-2025-02 as read.
So we're
Moved by Crum. Do I have a second? Second by Myers. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 03-2025-03, awarding a contract for fire engine 135 tank valve repair. This is going to be on page, thank you, sir, 74. I'll give you a second. Basically, it's my understanding the valve is warped, and so while we've put it in, it leaks quite frequently, and they're consistently having to refill the tank on engine 136. They have tried to reseal it, and it did not work because of the warp, and so the valve needs to be replaced. This is kind of a specialty item, so we did put out that any contractor had to be Waterous certified. I believe that's the type of valve. So when we put this out for bid, we did say that they had to be certified to replace such a part. And we got 1 quote back from Reliant Fire Apparatus. That quote is on page 75. You will see they are the ones that did come and try to reseal it. And knowing that that was a temporary solution to hopefully slow the leak. So they did that on site. So we have the drive to unit price and the return from unit price were for that service call. And then the middle section where it says remove tank to pump valve and rebuilt, so on and so forth. It's got the seal kit, the tank intake valve repair kit, and the ball valve. That's work that's already been done. And so the bottom portion, the tank to valve is warped and will not hold the new seal kit. This labor line would be to replace the valve with a new valve from Waterous. What they have noted on page 76 is that if we go with them, again, they are the only quote that we received, they will credit us back for the valve kit and the ball that were charged in segment 2. So the ball valve and the tank repair kit will get credited back. We will still have to pay for the seal kit. I don't imagine those are reusable once they've installed them, so. With that said, that's why the total on the quote does not match what's in the resolution. The resolution accounts for those credits, as noted on the quote. Additionally, this repair has to be done at their shop, which is in Des Moines, I believe.
Yep.
And so what you'll notice in the bottom part of the resolution is that we will have the cost of fuel for round trip transportation. And I do believe we are hauling it, not driving it.
That is the plan right now.
Perfect. To keep wear and tear off the rest of the truck. I'm gonna pause. Any questions?
Is that the same truck we just had fixed?
No,
No, different one?
that was a different one.
Oh,
You're talking about the one with the transmission issue?
Yeah,
No, that was a different one.
different one. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Actually, that one started leaking after this one started, but it's not as bad, so, yes,
Okay. They're getting old.
yeah.
All right, any questions? I would seek a motion to approve resolution 03-2025-03, awarding the contract for fire engine 136 tank valve repair. Whereas the city of Alburnett, Iowa sought quotes for the replacement of the tank valve on fire engine 136, and whereas notice to contractors was duly given, and whereas one quote was received from a contractor as follows: Reliant Fire Apparatus for $5,975.77. Whereas the city council has reviewed the quotes and finds it appropriate to award the contract to Reliant Fire Apparatus, now therefore it be resolved that the city council of the city of Alburnett, Iowa does hereby award the contract for the tank valve replacement on fire engine 136 to Reliant Fire Apparatus in the amount not to exceed $5,975.77, plus the cost of fuel for round trip transportation, subject to subsequent receipt of permission and direction to proceed by the Otter Creek Fire Chief, Alburnett Otter Creek Fire Chief. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution as read?
So moved.
Moved by Sukup. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Bozenberg. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right. Last page in your agenda, resolution 03-2025-04, approving the reversing fund transfer from road use tax to general fund. So this is something we did earlier, I believe in about September. We approved transferring, it was in our budget for this fiscal year to have $100,000 for street preservation. Given that I was still leaning in heavily to assist Vicky, we made the transfer out of road use into the general fund. Turns out that is not how we're supposed to do it. You're actually just supposed to leave it in road use and spend it from there. Because now we didn't receive as much road use tax as we thought that we would, or that balance has negative because we made that transfer. Whereas if we just put the money back, we don't have a problem. So that was me not understanding we don't have to take it out just because we budgeted it. We can leave it in that and spend from that fund. So we just need to put it back in road use is where we're at. So Any questions? All right, I will read this one. Resolution 03-2025-04, approval of reversing fund transfer from road use tax to general fund. So whereas the city of Alburnett previously approved the transfer of $100,000 from the road use tax fund 110E to the general fund 001 under resolution 2024-34 for street preservation. Whereas it has been determined that this transfer is unnecessary and it is more appropriate for any funds used for street preservation to be spent directly from the road use tax fund rather than the general fund. And whereas the city of Alburnett seeks to ensure that funds are properly allocated to maintain financial integrity and compliance with budgetary guidelines. Now therefore be resolved by the City Council of the City of Alburnett, Iowa, that one, the previously approved transfer of $100,000 from the road use tax fund to the general fund is hereby reversed. The city clerk is directed to make the necessary accounting adjustments to return $100,000 to the road use tax fund from the general fund, and this resolution shall take effect immediately upon passage. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution as read?
So moved.
Motion by West. Myers, do you second?
Yes.
Second by Myers. Because this is budget related, I will do a roll call. Counselor Myers.
Aye.
Counselor West.
Aye.
Counselor Sukup.
Aye.
Counselor Boasberg.
Aye.
Counselor Trum.
Aye.
That motion passes. All right. Item 12, old business, park project update. So we did have a meeting with HR Green to go over what they thought was to go over the timeline. But we did at that meeting get into the details of some of the discussions that we had during our budget hearing in regards to budget availability and how that's going to impact the park project timeline as well. So as part of the resolution we just passed, we had the discussion during the budget hearing about reserving some of that local option sales tax funding we had originally earmarked for the park to make sure it is available for other projects, whether that be street repair or other capital projects within the city. And so that adjusted our city available budget back to 250,000 from the 350 that we had originally told HR Green. So I walked them through what the priorities, what amenities would be priorities and things like that. Much to my surprise, they didn't take it badly. So they actually were like, okay, that's all right. We are still pursuing some grant funding. And so we're hopeful that we'll be able to get the full amount without the city having to put all of that out. And I did let them know that they're going to build more amenities in as add alternates. So if we do get that funding, it'll already be bid out and we can just put those items back in. So for the public and just reminder to council, what I did tell them is priorities are the pavilion, the walking trail, and at least one of the pickleball courts. So that would mean that we are deprioritizing the playground features and the recently added half basketball court in the back quarter. So if we get any grant funding, that I would recommend, and we'll talk through all of this, but that the second pickleball court be the first thing we put back in, just because if they're doing the surfacing and those types, like that does seem like a contractor that when they're here, you would just want to have them here. We did ask about without adding, I just asked them to take things off the project. And then I was like, but also is like the pavilion big enough? Cause I don't want to cut if, I want it to be right. So they were going to do a study on that. What I did inform them is, and council, just so you're also aware, I made sure that Vicky ensured we still have that 250,000 spending authority in the FY26 budget. So it doesn't increase the budget because we already have the funding, but we need to include it so that we have the authority to spend it. And so in telling HR Green that's where they got most excited, because they said actually by waiting until later in the year to put it out to bid, we're probably going to get better price, because this is one of those projects that a contractor may pick up if they ran themselves just a little bit short, because it's not a big investment. It's gonna be, you know, it doesn't require a lot of special equipment and those types of things. So they actually thought bidding it closer to like the August timeframe, we were gonna get better pricing. So that was the good news out of it. And it gives them time to source additional providers for things and really do, kind of nail down the design work as well. So they're still gonna scope all of it. They're just gonna, we can then just build it as phases. So if we don't have to re-engineer anything, it'll all be engineered in. We may do it in phases. So that is the park project update.
Was the decision on the walking trail concrete then, or was it some kind of surface?
They are going to give us pricing for that. So it kind of came down to pricing. Cause we do, in addition to the 250 for local option, we do have what we decide 24,000. Cause we got the $16,000 Wellmark grant, and then we still had the $6,000 from the Lions Club that is dedicated to trails. So we'll make sure that gets spent. So we have the additional 24,000 for the trail piece. They really want to keep it concrete or at least paved, rather than doing like a crushed asphalt for ADA purposes. So to make sure it's as accessible as possible. But they were gonna price out the options for paving versus concrete. Good question. That's where we're at. I've got a grant application due next week. And I know the board meeting for that foundation is at the end of April, so we should start learning more. And then I got a lead on another one, so hopefully we can get some help here. Yeah. Any questions on the park project? All right, with that, we are down to final comments. I'll start to my right with Counselor Trump.
I want to thank you for your leadership at our meeting tonight, dealing with the rezoning situation. I think that was handled very well.
Thank you. Counselor Bozeman.
Yeah, I'll ditto what Joe said on that, and it's nice to get a good comment about you.
Told him I pay him for the compliment.
Good, no, so that is very good, so appreciate that.
Thank you. Counselor Suka.
Nothing outside of that to add.
Counselor West. Counselor Myers.
I second those comments, but everything else.
Thank you. Well, I do apologize. They felt the delay. What I will say, while we don't need to send everything to the attorney, there are certain circumstances where I think it's valuable to make sure we're interpreting things correctly and we have all the information that we need. So I hope they understand that that was just something that needed to be done to protect us. And so, yeah, I think we've got a good path forward on that one in particular. And we will keep all this moving. So, oh, one last comment. We did get a question. We had some old business on the Longworth drainage. I'll be working with Mac. We'll bring that back up now that the weather's cleared, because I think we were finished talking about all that in like November and then the weather turned. So we'll make sure that gets back on the agenda as well. So we didn't forget about it. All right. Verna, anything to add?
I do have a question for you.
Yes.
We have the fire department that has, written grants to, St. Luke's. And we were asking for Zoll, AEDs in particular, which will run about, for us, it'll be about $11,000. If we had to buy it flat out, it'd be $19,000, so we're saving a lot of bucks here. But if we get that grant, do we still have to come to have you guys approve our stuff to be able to order those AEDs?
Yes, because the revenue, so the grant money and the expenditure are seen as two different things. So we still have to approve the expenditure, even if it is being covered by a grant.
I was just curious to know how that's gonna work. Cause I didn't understand that. I was figuring if it was a grant, we wrote it and we got the money in, that we'd be able to order up, because that's what it was written for, and it was specifically what it's for.
So even if so when we do the budgeting process, we are given spending authority. So we can only spend as much as we've put in the budget. Whether we get enough grant money to cover 100% of our budget or not, that's all. So if we get enough grant money to cover 100% of our budget and then we want to go over, we have to amend our budget to allow us to expend more. So unfortunately, they don't really look at the revenues. They're just like, well, we don't care what you brought in, we care how much you're spending. So they are seen as two different things, but it'd be just the same as we did with the bags. Just get us the quote and we can approve it that way.
Yeah. And on that one in particular, that's one that's a 50-50 because we have to match. So it'll be half and half. They pay for half and we get the other half that we have to pay for. And
So if you have it, we can approve it at the next meeting and just contingent upon
now we just
the
gotta,
grant.
we don't know if we've got it yet, so.
That's not till June.
But we can approve it contingent upon the grant
Okay.
funding.
We have 2 grants then, we'll probably have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one that we have is,
That way you're not held up in making the order, but yes, it does have to come to us to authorize the expense. Yeah.
so the other one we have is with Firehouse Subs Grant. That's the other one, and that's the one where we've ordered, and that's 100%, that there's no match that we have to do. And as for our MCI bag, in case we would have, God forbid, if we'd have a shooting happen over here at the school. So it's an MCI bag that has all the stuff that we would need that we have to have in a hurry to get in there. Plus it comes with the 2 vests that have the plates and the armor. Cause if we would get shot at, it's gonna hurt, but it's not gonna go through. So, and with that in mind, that's $3,981. So we just know that those are out there and we saved $435 on that one. So if we get those 2, we'll be looking at you
Perfect.
really quick.
I do know we'll have to watch if it's this fiscal year. Sounds like the June one, the purchase wouldn't be till next fiscal year. So if any of the expenses hit this year, we'll just make sure we've got enough budget to make that happen.
Yeah.
So. All right. Mac, anything to add?
Nope.
Vicky? Rebecca?
I appreciate, like Joe said, how you handled that entire situation.
Thank you.
I just figured out.
All right. With that, we will confirm the date and time of our next meeting, which is March 31st, 2025 at 6 p.m. That is a special meeting for the FY26 proposed property tax levy public hearing. We will actually have 2 meetings that night. The first, the public hearing has to stand alone on its own agenda. So we will open that meeting, hold the agenda or hold the hearing, close that, and then we can carry on with our second meeting, which we will now also have a public hearing at for the zoning and as well as approving the taxes, hopefully, and then setting a public hearing for budget approval. So we are in the thick of all of the budget stuff. That's all I got. Seek a motion to adjourn. Moved by Bozenberg. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Myers. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned at 9:03 PM.
We haven't had many marathons.